Hey everybody, my toy Bonsai Boise. So this is a little Ficus Benjamina clump. I named it Clumpy. Very original, right? So this is a shot from this past winter. It actually started last summer of 23, and it just started off as just a very small training pot that I stuck a bunch of cuttings in. So it was completely random at first. And then I took a look at it and went, maybe I should make a clump out of this. I don't have a clump style yet for Ficus Benjamina, so why not? And then over the winter, I decided, maybe I'll repot it into some decent bonsai soil. That's old bonsai soil. And the reason I know that is because that's usually what I use for cuttings. So there it is in its bigger training pot. Got him a little name tag, Clumpy. And from that point forward, I started treating it as if it was going to be a clump style. Pruning it in such a way, etc. I have a willow leaf ficus right now that is clump style. And I've got some Scheffleras, but this is my first Ficus Benjamina clump style. My hope is that over time, that base will start to fuse together and basically just be a clump. Got in some good soil, gave it some fertilizer, trimmed it up a tiny bit. Clump styles they're both interesting and not at the same time. In some ways they're kind of boring, and in some ways they're not. They have a unique set of challenges. So here it is as of just the other day, August of 2024. As you can see, they look a little more weathered and they're definitely grown out quite a bit. But it's just kind of funky and fun. Something different. This name tag is sort of worn off a little bit. But the reason I say that they present a unique challenge is because you would think it's easy. You just stick a bunch of cuttings in a pot, clump them all together. And that's kind of it, at least in the beginning. But over time, the challenge is getting it to fill out correctly. A regular bonsai tree, you've got a trunk, and that trunk, look at that little spider I caught. Gotcha. Anyways, a regular bonsai tree starts with a trunk, and then the trunk splits into two, branches, and the two branches split into four. It's fairly straightforward from there. I say straightforward, but I mean, the concept is sort of that simple. But a clump style isn't that way. A clump style, you've got 8 or 10 or 12 trunks, and so getting them all to sort of go at the same pace, because they some want to outperform others and they want to take over. That's a little challenging, and getting them to all grow up and outward and not inward is the other challenge. And you really kind of have to stay on top of them, because what I've seen so far from this and others and other species of trees is that if you just hedge prune it, which it can be tempting to do, meaning you just sort of run roughshod and just cut it down to the shape you want it to be, the problem with that is you're not really doing any branch selection that way. And so over time, one branch starts to take over, and it starts to shade out other branches. And then those other branches get weaker. They start to die off or get, really weak. And then that one branch gets much, much stronger, much, much thicker, faster than the other ones. And then it gets out of shape. And it looks disproportionate then. So, like I said, in some ways, they're very simple. They start off as a bunch of cuttings in a pot. But then as you start to try and refine it, that's when the challenge comes in, and getting it to all grow and at the same pace. I like my new little soil sifter. I've got my main way that I sift soil, I pre-rinse it, but I got that at a pet store. It was either a litter box scoop, not used, or it was something to do with an aquarium, like a lizard aquarium. But anyways, I give the soil one last little sift before I put it in the pot, so best $5 ever. And so even though it's only been in this soil now for maybe 7 or 8 months, still I'm gonna try to get all the soil out of there, trim it up a little bit so that it fits in this new pot, and then look it over again to make sure that the shape is in the proportions I want and whatnot. You don't want one branch sticking way out in left field, because that would look goofy. So lots of roots, really thick root ball. And I'm going to keep most of that intact because I want that root ball to fuse together and become a clump. You can see where they were just cuttings. You can actually see the cut point where roots are coming out. And it goes to show Ficus Benjamina, a lot of people love them or hate them, or are just indifferent, I guess, in between, but a lot of people don't like them. I like them a lot because you can just do so many things with them. You can style them so many different ways. You can propagate them super easy, so there's never a shortage of them. Because if you start running low, you just take a cutting. But there's just so many things you can do with them. For the most part, they're super durable, super tough. They just don't like cold weather. I bring them out late spring every year. They are outside in full sun all summer long, up until about, I'd say, early October is when I usually bring them all in. I sort of figured out this was probably going to be the front. I didn't have a front picked out until this moment, but it made the most sense. That soil mix is a newer mix I've been doing. It's perlite, volcanic rock, pine bark, a little bit of academa, some pumice, and what am I forgetting? Oh, a little bit of safety absorb, which I've been on and off with the safety absorb this year. I'm not sure how I feel about it right now. I've used it for years. It's mostly okay, but last winter I had a few trees where the soil kind of went bad, and it gets a particular smell when it goes bad, kind of a sweet smell almost, but you can tell when soil is not good. And I think I've got it narrowed down to safety absorb, but I can't be for sure on that, so don't take my word for it. Take that with a grain of salt for now. Give it a good rinse. And typically I try to just rinse it until it starts to run clear out of the bottom. And usually I'll pick it up and kind of tamp it down on the ground a few times, just like that. You can see how you can kind of see it sort of shakes out some dust and particles and extra dirt and stuff. And that's how it's looking now. So I'm giving it one last look. And it looks to me like the inside is sunken down a little bit too much, so I'm going to try to bring the height down a little bit. And like I said, long term, my hope is that that base fuses together, which I think it will, as a clump. And then we've got some cool, funky movement with a whole bunch of different branches and trunks in the middle there, like a clump style, to give it an interesting look. These clump styles really changed their character over time. might nip at it a little bit more. I'll put it back on the bench and kind of look at it and go, this one branch is sticking out to me. But I try not to nip at them constantly. I try to get it in the shape it should be and leave it if I can, so it can regain its health. But that's it on Clumpy. Please like and subscribe. You can see updates on this and others. I've got a whole lot of different trees that I work with. And I appreciate everybody who does. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day.